Hi, I'm Clive Barker. This is my house in Beverly Hills. And down here is my painting studio, which not an awful lot of people get to see, so come on down with me. Some old paintings up on the walls here. And downstairs, work which is in progress for Abarat 2, the sequel to Abarat, which will be coming out next September. Abarat 2, Days of Magic, Nights of War. I have 10 paintings left to finish and a week to finish them in. I had an exhibition organized at a wonderful space called La Luz de Jesus, the Light of Jesus, here in LA, and where I had exhibited before erotic work. And I was going to do another exhibition of erotic work. And I just started to paint these pictures. I'll show you when we go next door to what I call the gallery house, you know, what those first paintings were. They came without invitation. They just started to appear on the canvas. I know that sounds weird, but it really is how it was. I was painting at night. I was coming down here, starting to paint these pictures. I hadn't worked in oils before, so there was a fumbling quality. There is still a fumbling quality about what I do. But there's something about the process which immediately made me feel happy. I was really enjoying making these characters, really enjoying making these worlds. And after I'd done maybe 50, 60 paintings maybe, I went to my publishers and I said, I think I have a world here I'd like to write about. I think I could do a book here. Originally it was going to be just one book. I had a name for that world, Abarat. Don't know where it came from, but I kind of liked it. And I figured I would do one book with a lot of illustrations and it would be cool. And then, of course, it grew. This is the largest of the projects I've undertaken, which has grown and grown to the point where I'm now just about, you catch me about halfway through. And I've been at it 6 years now. So I think I was saying to you guys, about 450 paintings. And I finished the second book and I delivered the second book. And, you know, sometimes when I think I could evaporate into Abarat. My steak knives. I don't eat steaks, so they get turned to artistic purpose. And if you look closely at the paintings in the first Abarat book, you'll find that they're covered in scratches. And my jeans, as you can see, are covered in paint. One of the cool things the scratching does is it brings through another level, another color from behind the paint that I've just put on, so that the canvas kind of has a kind of extra energy, gains a kind of energy from the scratches. One of my great passions is Goya, Spanish painter. And he used to paint sometimes 3 paintings a day. And he would paint with his fingers, he would paint with a palette knife, he would paint with brushes sometimes, but really, he kind of taught me that really whatever makes the mark is what's important. It's a very physical business. It's kind of athletic in a weird way, particularly canvases like this, canvases of this scale. Later on, I'll show you some much bigger canvases. See, I don't know how close you can get on this, but I'm scratching away this red, and it's just bringing through this lovely blue. Can you get that? It's kind of fun. And it just gives this whole thing a kind of energy which it wouldn't otherwise have. My idea of, I guess my experience, my training, where art is concerned, is this. It's a very kind of physical, sweaty, smelly, dirty business. I love being in this world, except when the paintings don't work and I have to trash something that pisses me off. But most of the time, it's a very satisfying process, and I'm just getting out of myself. Something very satisfying about skulls. Something nicely simple about skulls. You know, that white circle and then two black circles. Two more little circles, and then wham, 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 bam, 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 bam. And there it is. Wow, what a great sense of design God had, huh? Behind me is the largest of the paintings that I have painted thus far for the quartet, though I plan one much larger picture, which is just in my head right now. This is a painting of the archipelago of Abarat, and for people who don't know anything about the books, really they concern a girl called Candy Quackenbush, who is snatched away from her home in Chicken Town, Minnesota, which she thinks is about the most boring place on earth. This is Candy Quackenbush, who's our heroine. It's instructive and important that she has one eye that's brown and one eye that's blue. I wanted to get the impression, I wanted to give the impression that her life, because she lives in this place called Chicken Town, was dominated by chickens. So I painted a lot of chickens. I painted lots and lots of chickens. I went so crazy painting these damn chickens. But it was a way for me to express the way her life is, and when they're put to either side of the major painting of her, it's Candy just surrounded by chickens. And she's snatched away by a wave which carries her to this archipelago, which has 25 islands in it, each of which is a different hour of the day, except for this one, which is the time out of time, the 25th hour. So that if you go to, let's say, this island, which is midnight, the island of Gorgosium, everything that you would associate with midnight, all those things that we guys who love Fango would love, you know, the dark stuff, the magic, the dark magic, the vampires, the stuff that goes bump in the night, everything is concentrated onto this island. This is midnight, and it has these 13 towers on, and this is the roughed out painting of those 13 towers. And when I'm painting something like this, I'm pretty much playing some heavy Wagner or something that has some drama to it. By contrast, let's see, this is the island of Noon, a bright, fertile island where everything is sunshine and light. And there's been a war going on between the islands of night and the islands of day for a very long time. In fact, 9 great wars between these islands. And what happens is the Candy comes into the midst of these islands, and really what she discovers, she has a clue to it in the first book, she gets more of it in the second, is that unlike Dorothy in Oz or Alice in Wonderland, who are accidental visitors to their wonderlands, Candy has an ancient and intimate association with the history of Abarat. She belongs here in ways that she never knew about. She dreamed about when she was living back in Chickentown. I promised that I would, when we were talking next door, that I would show you the first painting, the first Abarat painting, the first. I was saying that I was doing an exhibition for La Luz de Jesus, and something appeared which I didn't anticipate, and this is the painting that appeared. I mean, this isn't something that, you know, I would have even thought of painting. It just seemed to be there in my brush. This is a cool character from the second book. His name is Lehman Vol, and he's a bad guy. Not that you would ever know it from his appearance. His nose has been eaten off by a spider, so he wears a leather nose in substitute, and he has these 3 mouths, which allows him to speak to insects. And he loves insects of every conceivable kind, and there are some insects on the islands of the Abarat, including a species called the sack brood, which we will meet in the second book, which are pretty monstrous. But he will even make homes to lice and ticks. You can see all these guys, they run all over him, they burrow in his skull. He just loves them. This is Christopher Carrion, who is, no big surprise, the great villain of the books. And he siphons his nightmares out of his skull into this kind of soup which surrounds him. You can see in this, he has this kind of glass collar. And here are the nightmares, which are kind of electrical, really. He's a brutally depraved man, very, very bad guy. But when I started to study him, it also seemed to me that there was a weird sadness in him, which I hadn't really seen until I started to paint the pictures. You know, he has 2 different looks in his eyes. You see that? You know, that's a completely villainous eye, but that seems to me to have something a little sad, a little disappointed in it. When I look at the pictures, they sometimes tell me things about the characters that I didn't know necessarily. Normally when I'm painting, I feel like it's just flowing through me. I'm a conduit for it from some other place or I'm channeling it, if you will. I would like to take some credit, but I think in a way the credit is for getting out of my own way. And one of the things I've learned as a painter is not to be forever judging myself. What liberated me into painting was just letting go, just not worrying too much about, well, was that a perfect line? Is that a perfect stroke? Everything is imperfect, gloriously imperfect, and its imperfection is part of what gives it its energy. You know, the marks that I'm making now, which will be probably in the final painting, you know, there's no perfect stroke here. There's just something being done with a kind of rough energy to it, and that's something very pleasurable about just that. Just a few scratches. I suppose it goes back almost to the kinds of things we made when we were children. You know, Picasso said he spent his entire life learning to draw like a child. I think that might be a slight overstatement where I'm concerned, but I certainly do like the idea of bright colors and strong, energetic shapes, the kinds of things I would have loved as a kid. What matters is there's something in you which is unique to you. And that's the only thing that matters. Not being the next Clive Barker, not being the next Stephen King, not being the next Steven Spielberg, whatever. What matters is being the next whoever you are. The only whoever you are. And right or wrong, I'm the only Clive Barker.